So, fat loss plateau, why they happen, and more importantly, how to avoid the 3 most common traps. So before we get into that, right, we need to figure out exactly what is a plateau, right? So if you're someone that has struggled with your weight loss, if you're someone that is feeling frustrated, you're not alone, it's very common. But the first thing we need to figure out is exactly what is the issue, right? So a plateau occurs when you stop seeing progress despite a lot of effort, a lot of momentum, a lot of things moving in the right direction, right? And so there's 3 common things that I'm going to share with you very shortly, and more importantly, how to avoid these common mistakes, so that way you continue to see the fat loss going forward and give yourself a nice smiley face because you're seeing things work in your favor, right? So, fat loss plateau, why is it happening? So, little known fact, right, is your body really doesn't want to lose weight. You have to approach it in a way to where it makes sense for you. You need to be consistent with what you're doing. So the first thing you want to focus on, where most people have issues, right, is what they can figure out in their routine, right? So number 1 here is, what is your routine, right? And what I mean by that is, when you wake up in the morning, right? Let's say you wake up at, 6 a.m. till you go to bed. And say, for easy math's sake, right? You're going to bed at, 9 p.m., right? So what is going on between this time right here, right? So what your routine entails is exactly what is going on throughout the day, right? Whether that's working out, whether that's eating, whether it's being kind of thrown into life, right? Especially if you're a parent like me, you struggle with this. Sometimes you have one plan, one thing happens, and all of a sudden, life happens, right? So what's the solution for that? How can we move forward with a solid routine to make sure that we feel like we're moving in the right direction and we're seeing things progress and go forward, right? So the first thing you want to do, right, is figure out what's working for your routine, right? So this is where you can make a list of pluses or minuses on things that are working for you, right? So if we don't know what's going on, if we don't have data proof showing that we're doing the stuff that we need to be doing, then we're not going to be able to change this stuff, right? So we want to make sure that we're being consistent with what we're doing before we do anything, before we start changing stuff up, right? We have to figure out exactly where we're at, right? Before we can figure out how to get to where we want to go, right? Because odds are, if we don't know this right here, then this destination is not gonna happen, right? It's just not gonna happen. So figure out what your routine is. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. The best way to do that, or a great solution here, is make sure you're blocking your time. So me being a business owner, dad, husband, very involved in my church, I need to block off my time. I need to set aside the time for me to do the things I need to do, right? And so that's where you can, if you're someone that likes to color coordinate stuff, you can do that. If you're someone that likes to just have it, hour by hour, 30 minutes increments, you can do that. But odds are, right, let's start here. Let's focus on what we can do. Block off your time, right? Block off the stuff that is most important, that's going to get you moving in the right direction. So in essence, we want to have more pluses than minuses, right? And what I mean by pluses versus minuses is we want to have the things in our routine that are going to showcase that we're doing the right stuff, right? We have the right things here. We want to have stuff that's giving us a check mark, right? Am I doing the stuff that's actually going to get me to my goal, right? Before we get into workouts, before we get into diet, nutrition, all that stuff, we need to focus on our routine first and foremost, because we don't focus on our routine, we don't get ourselves set up for success, right? If we're not planning to get where we want to be, it's not going to matter, right? So number 1, where most people fall into an issue, right, is planning their routine and planning their day. If we don't plan what we're doing, we're not going to get where we want to be, right? It's just not You're gonna be sad, and ain't no one got time for that, right? So after we figure out what our ideal plan is and what we gotta do, right? We have to be consistent with it. We have to be consistent with it. What I mean by that is we want to make sure that our nutrition and our workouts are things that we can maintain and, more importantly, do day in and day out. We want to make sure that these two things fit within what we're planning, right? So if our nutrition doesn't make sense for us because we are a busy adult and we're trying to eat a keto-based diet, but all of our kids and all of our family have a large amount of carbohydrates, then instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and trying to get everyone on board with doing everything all at once, odds are, if you're like me and you got kids, we need to figure out how we can make those puzzle pieces work for you instead of against you, right? So we don't need to reinvent the wheel here, right? We just want to make sure that the wheel is moving in the right direction. So being consistent with what we're doing. Consistent is what's going to get us there, and it's going to give us a smiley face, right? It's going to give us the good thing. So again, if we're not planning what we're doing, then number 2 is not going to make any sense. We don't understand a routine. It doesn't matter if we're trying to be consistent, because odds are life's going to happen, and we're going to fall back into those old habits, right? So that's where that pluses and minuses is going to make a lot of sense for us. So is this making sense so far? In the comments below, please let me know. Say yes it is, or hey Seth, I need some help with this. Can you go back to that? And then after this video, I will go back to those questions at a later date, right? So recapping what we have here, we want to make sure that we're planning with what we have. We want to make sure that we're being consistent with what that plan is with our workouts and our nutrition, right? So what's number 3? What's number 3, right? Is we want to make sure that with all of this, we're allowing ourselves some grace, some recovery, right? So grace, allow yourself to make mistakes, find what works, right? If we're not allowing ourselves to have some kind of recovery period, or allowing ourselves to sleep, things like that, then all this stuff is gonna just fall by the wayside. You don't want to try to do everything all at once, right? So that's where we're using our planning, we're being consistent, and when we have those things, we can make sure that we can move forward at a good pace. So we want to make sure that the pace of what we're having, of the things that we're doing, is going to make sense for us, right? So having that recovery period, having that time to adjust to what we're doing, right? It's going to be a process. You got to honor the process. You don't want to just all of a sudden try to run a marathon if you haven't ran before, right? So you're going to trust the process, trust the stuff that we're doing, trust that you're doing the right things, trust that your effort is not in vain, right? If something doesn't work, it's not a failure. It's just that thing didn't work, so we're adjusting and moving to the next one. So to recap, right? Fat loss plateaus, why do they happen, right? So your body eventually is going to get so used to doing the stuff that you're doing. We need to make sure that we are planning our routine, make sure we're having the right stuff in front of us, right? So we have a good check in the box there, right? Then we can figure out if we're being consistent with our plan, right? So everything's building up on each other, right? So our consistency, our planning is good. We can make sure that we're trusting the process here and allowing ourselves time to adjust, right? Adjust to what we're doing. So, the body doesn't want to lose weight, right? So it's going to take time for you to get where you want to be. So if we focus on that, if we understand that it's going to take some time, then all of these things are going to allow you to move forward at a right manner. So a good way to kind of recap this, right? It's kind of the overall theme of this is we want to make sure that if we have a fat loss plateau, that we're setting up our SMART goal, right? So SMART goal, it's an acronym. It stands for specifically measurable, attainable, realistic, and time warranted, right? So if we have a big goal of, let's say we want to lose 10 pounds, right? We need to be able to lose that first pound. So how do we lose that first pound? It's something very specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, and time warranted. So we're going to be talking about that in the next video, right? How to set up your SMART goal, set yourself up for success. But I'm curious to know, right? So the 3 things, what was your biggest takeaway from today's video? What were some of your aha moments? If this made sense for you, give me a bunch of thumbs up. If you could share this, do that as well. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments below. As well as that, I do have an opportunity coming up. I'm going to be starting a back-to-school program. So if you're a busy mom or dad, or someone that's going back to college, and you're trying to get back in shape, set up your routine, right? Plan the routine, be consistent, and allow yourself to adjust to. In the comments below, please put school in all capital letters, and I'll reach out to you and we'll get you rock and roll with a better you. All right, well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the flippity flop. Peace.